can you prepare for the SJT exam? Our opinion is that you can. And me and Abdul prepared in very different ways. He got shot out to Coventry and I got to stay in London. Let's find out what we exactly did. So Abdul, let's dive in straight to the SJT exams. Why don't you tell us first of all, what the hell is it even?
So the SJT is an awful exam. And I'm not saying that because I did really bad in it. It is
PTSD there.
So the SJT stands for Situational Judgment Test. It's an exam you sit at the end of final year. Everyone in the country sits there, you get a score, and it counts as half of your FPAS application for when you rank and choose jobs. There's many rumours, there's many conspiracies, there's many reasons as to why it was introduced. Apparently it's like a national selective tool to kind of even the odds, level the playing field type thing. I have my own other reasons, and I think you're right, it's probably because I did so badly in it. But yeah, it's essentially an exam you do before you start working. It's part of your FPAS, it weighs a lot, and doing well in the SJT is the difference between getting your deanery of choice or basically being shipped out to a place you don't want to really go to.
Yeah, because let's be honest, even if you're bottom decile at university, you're still going to have 43 points out of 50. So the real exam that's probably make or break is the SJT exam. So in terms of the SJT exam itself, so it tests you on the GMC domains, and I've got it written down, don't remember off by heart. So yeah, knowledge, skills and performance, safety, quality, comms, partnership, teamwork, maintaining trust. Basically the ideals of a doctor, right? And the SJT will throw out various types of scenarios, and you're supposed to rate, rank, or select what's the most appropriate response to it all. First of all, just going back, in this period, how did you feel in the run-up to the SJT exams? What does it feel like for not for the final years, because they're feeling it right now, let's say for the fourth years and third years that are watching?
So we knew it was a big exam. I knew it was a big exam. I knew it was an important exam. I was nervous. I was anxious about the exam, and I wanted to perform well because I knew that performing well in the SJT was a big thing, especially when I knew that I wouldn't get the top decile ranking, right? So it was my way to compensate and kind of make sure I'm competitive, right? Yeah. And maybe looking back, the reasons as to why I studied and the way I went about it stemmed from this anxiety and nervousness of, okay, I know I'm not going to do too well in my EPM decile scoring, so I need to compensate on my SJT.
Well, not really. You're still in the top half.
So like, you want to make yourself as competitive, right? So, and this is the one time you can just bang it out and do really well.
True. Okay, so fine. So, yeah, I do remember it is a high stakes exam. You do get a little bit of the nerves creeping in. But the best thing you can do is watch videos like this or watch other people's videos, because it just settles you in. It's like the progress tests, right? If you sit one big exam at the end of the year, you're often more nervous than if you were to do an exam every 3 months, right? Get you into the mode. So yeah, talking a little bit about the SJT. So this is a big question that's flying all over Twitter. Is, do you have to attend a course? Now, I'll give you my opinion after. Your opinion first.
So, we both did attend a course. It was a popular course, highly recommended by the years above. So before we go in, a lot of the advice, a lot of the things we did, it was off the back of advice. Well, for me at least. I spoke to people that I knew did well or relatively well, and I wanted to kind of follow their path, right? So it was recommended to go to a particular course, a whole day course. I can't remember how much it was, maybe like 90 quid or something like that. Looking back, when you're at the course, because you're in it, you're like, oh, this is really good, this is really good, this is such a valuable, high yield gem information. And then afterwards, looking back, it's like, it's information that you could have sought online if you did your research. It was nothing amazing or extravagant or super hidden gems, right? Maybe there are 1 or 2 questions they teach you how to do well when it comes up. For me, looking back, I don't think it was that worthwhile for me. And it was information that I could have, if I wasn't lazy, researched online.
So I think you summarized it quite well. So you don't need to go to a course. It's not a must do. Going to a course doesn't guarantee success. But I disagree with you. For me, when I look back, I think it's worthwhile. And I'll tell you why. So it's what you said, right? You can spend time Googling, researching, doing it all independently, right? But if you've got a bit of spare cash, if you've got a bit of spare time, right? It's nice to be spoon-fed. That's what it is. So it's nice for someone who's got a lot of experience. So we went to a very experienced course. We won't give the name just because we're being bluntly honest about it and we don't want to cause any offense. But we went to the course, and for me, it was quite a good course. It was insights. It was just saying, this is what the SJT is. This is what the exam does. This is a couple of frameworks that we use. And what I saw it as is, it's just an introduction gearing me up to prepare for the exam, which you have to do yourself.
Yeah. So
right?
I think I agree with you on that point. So there's two phases of it. So the bit about what the SJT is, what they're looking for, how it works, the timings, the common mistakes, that stuff was good.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I benefited from that.
Yeah.
But then when you go into the nitty gritty and how to answer, what's the secret way, what's the hack, what's that, maybe I find it was beneficial for me. Maybe I didn't understand it. Maybe I performed poorly at the back of it. But for you, what you said, I agree with.
And yeah, so on the back of, just to continue this part on the courses, right? So I think a course does what you just said, right? It's just structured information that someone has put together because they know it quite well, and they've just spoon-fed it to you. Sometimes you want that over spending hours Googling, looking at this website, this platform, Instagram messaging this person. If it is in one place, that's fantastic, right? That's the whole point of a course. That's why you have these course platforms out there. So I'm all for it. If you've got a bit of spare cash, it's not a must do. It doesn't guarantee success. People have gone on the courses and done absolutely poorly, and some of them are our friends. So that's where I stand with courses. But yes, peer insight. So you said you asked a lot of friends. When you asked for advice from people, right, was it helpful advice or did it confuse you?
So this is probably the bulk of the video. So when I spoke to people that did well in their SJT, they all gave what worked for them.
Yes.
For some people, it was read this particular book, which was like a practice paper book. I don't even know if they do books anymore. Or it was like do the past papers or the practice questions or use a particular exam bank or go to this course and that course, right? And they all shared their honest opinion, what worked for them, right? What I did and what I think I did wrong was, and I thought I was being smart with it, is I basically took everyone's feedback and everyone's technique and I combined it and I tried to do all of it. And we can break it down into different segments of it, right? And long story short, the reason as to why I performed so poorly in the SJT was because I over prepared for it. And what does that mean? I used multiple resources, I used multiple exam banks, multiple courses, and what it meant is, by nature of the exam, there's always a certain strategy, a certain style of answering these questions. Yeah. And I had conflicting information. At the time when you're revising and studying, you don't realize it. It's only when you sit the exam and you see a particular question, and in my head, I can still today remember, I read in this book, you answer it like this. However, I remember on past when you answer like this. And then I'm literally sitting in the exam in this question thinking, okay, this taught me how to do this, this taught me how to do this, this taught me how to do this. I couldn't get to a right answer and I just went with whatever, right? Yeah. And that's what I say, I over prepared and I was in a conflicting situation, and that was for every single question in that SJT paper.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give the golden advice at the end of the video actually. So I'm going to keep it for the end because I want to dissect that. And that's what I've identified between the top performers and the average and the at the lower end about what's different, right? So you just said you asked multiple people what worked for them. It was different advice and you were doing different books as well. So what were you doing? So you were doing questions and everything, every single book, every single platform. What were you doing? I want to know exactly what you were doing.
And I remember we had the discussion. You asked me, how are you revising for it and how are you revising for it, right? So I said, look, I spoke to X, Y, and Z. This is the way they revised, right? And it was, okay, these are the book recommended. It was an Omar book, which was like a nice little blue book. So I went through that, done. Yeah. Then I went and did the past med book. The past med question for SJT, banged that out, right? So now I'm already used 2 banks of resources that no doubt answer the questions in 2 different ways, right? Then I went to the course. That was a 3rd way of answering the same question. The 4th one is we did group sessions, right? So now there's a 4th way of answering the same one question, right? Yeah. And I may have used another dedicated SJT specific bank, right? Yeah. So let's say all in all, I learned 5 ways to answer the one same question, and they all differed in the way they approached it.
Exactly. And so this is now, so they're all tips on what not to do, by the way. Would you agree with me?
Yeah, I agree. I think the reasons, I can't tell you how to do well. I've never done well, but I can say one way to make sure you don't do well is over prepare, use multiple resources, try figure out the hack, and try basically take a bit from here, a bit from here, a bit from here, a bit from here. It's a recipe for disaster. You're never going to do well with it.
Yeah, so what I did was, because I thought I might be an anomaly of how I've prepared. So before this video, I asked a couple of people who did perform excellent, including not just the SJT postgraduate. So we're talking about the MSRA as well. So they performed excellent. And I asked them, what did you do? And it turns out that I subconsciously, without knowing what I did, was the right way to do it. So I asked them, what did you do? And this is the complete opposite to what you did. And it's what I did as well. So I first read the GMC, Best Practice or Good Doctor or whatever it is, that booklet, right? I emailed them actually. I remember as a med student, I got a big pack sent out to me, right? It's all online, but I got them posted out to me. And I read it cover to cover. It was boring. Some of it is like just common sense stuff like be honest and truthful. Of course, you have to be honest and truthful, but be honest and truthful, right? Yeah, I know that it's in the guidelines. And then what I did was I went to one course and I did one resource. But this is what I did. I didn't hold their ways of answering it as my way of answering it. I looked at it, I assessed it, and I formed my personal mental models. So when, for example, you've got a question, you've got your colleague who comes onto shift and they smell of alcohol. What's the first thing you do? What's the most appropriate? What's inappropriate? I had a mental model. First of all, that jacket might stink of alcohol because it's not their jacket. Are you assuming stuff? How do you know that they drank or they're drunk now? Are there indications? Is someone at risk? All those mental models that I have, I've got the questions in my head that I need to first answer. So I had a system in place and I was only ever applying my one system. Not a book, not so-and-so's guide, not someone's personal model. It was just my personal thing. So this is why the advice I tweeted at someone as well. And I said, look, you need to form your own personal mental models. The questions are very similar. Usually something where you think a patient's at risk, where you think there's an argument or something like that. So they're quite similar. So all the questions you can find online or in books of what you've done, right? But it's applying your own. If you could go back, would you do it like that, or would you say, nah, have you got any other bright ideas?
So I would do it the way you did it because it makes sense. So you understood, so you were spending time understanding the principles, how to answer questions in the right way. So it doesn't matter what question was thrown at you, you'd have a structure to answering it. Whereas what I did, I tried to learn the type of questions they give and the answers you'd pick. So I was trying to memorize for an exam where it's not about memorizing and getting the right answer. It's about having a framework. Because let's say in that scenario, you'd still be able to answer it well if it was, you have a colleague who came in and a jacket had, some white powder on it, which indicates that he must have been taking cocaine, right? So in my head, I'd have been like, okay, how did they answer that question with the jacket with cocaine? Or how did I answer with the jacket with alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you understood, irrespective of what it is, this is the framework to, I think, and you formed that with one or two resources. So you weren't erring on the side of caution or being confused. You had a framework, and that's the key to this exam, I think.
Exactly. Part of it also, do you think medical students should be spending a lot of time on the clinical grounds and thinking about this? Because the way I think about it, the SJT, some people say it's not like real life, but it kind of is. So for example, in that situation you just said, white powder on a jacket, has that doctor been taking drugs or whatever, right? Well, in real life, would you straight away go and call the police on them? Or would you straight away call wouldn't you do some investigative work?
So what it is a lot of the stuff, even if it was real life situations, you act and proceed in a very different way. It's just when it comes to medical students and medics, when it comes to an exam way, it's you're warped in this weird reality and you want to do things in a different way. So no doubt the way people answer those questions is maybe not the way they would do it in real life if the situation did actually arise. True. It's just because it's in exam mode and people are doing it and they don't care. They want to score top marks and get the deanery of their choice. So it's a very different approach.
Exactly. And I think the main thing is it has to be in line with the GMC best practice and what the core values are of a doctor, really. So yes, I think that's how us two prepared very differently. So we overlapped in where we went to the courses together. I do remember printing out the guidelines for you, bruv.
Yeah. So no, we had the guidelines.
Did you read it?
No, I read it, but like, I read it.
Polluted it.
Yeah, that's the word. I polluted it. But do you know what? I went about in the wrong way. Like I literally thought it's like a medical school where you can revise for it, answer the questions. I never realized there's an element of thinking. I finished the exam like half an hour early as well, right? That in itself. And remember, the one thing in the course I remember they said is a good way to understand if you've done the questions properly and you thought about it was you finished bang on time. And everyone that did do well were like, yeah, I wasn't rushing. I wasn't being super slow. I finished just on time. And then I left the exam thinking, yeah, I smashed it. I did super well, right? Knowing I failed it, right? But human fallacy, right? You gas yourself up. But I revised for it like a medical exam. I revised for it like it's memorized answers, right? I had no framework. I was trying to copy a framework from this person, that framework. And it let me down at the end.
Yeah, exactly. So this video just to give insight into how we prepared for the exam. We haven't gone through all the tips or what the exam, the different sections are. That'll be all in a different video. So just to wrap up, Abdul, things not to do?
Don't over prepare. Don't try read resources from 100 different places. Find your own framework. Find your own mental model. And the group settings as well, man. I think that messed me up as well. Like, stick to a technique and stick to it fully. Don't start mix and matching.
There you are. And my additions would be to read the actual GMC best practice and form your own personal mental models.